It's 12:05 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. Always good to hear that music because that music of your life means it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. And let's get the show going with the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Good afternoon, Kerry.
Hello, John. We're just enjoying bopping along with the
Yeah.
sounds of the music of your life there, Glenn Miller Orchestra. So it's good. It's good. It's always the sound that signals the fact that it's our Wednesday lunchtime gathering right here on the radio at 90.3 FM, WEJF. Hello to those of you who are listening online at WEJF.net, as well as the growing number of folks who will hear this later as a podcast, wherever you get podcasts, whether it be Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you're finding us. Thank you for listening and for sharing good information that is designed to help you and the seniors in your life lead a better life. As you know, Helping Seniors of Brevard is a nonprofit organization. We're now into our 13th year of service here in Brevard County, Florida. And Joe Steckler, our president and founder, he's the guy who got Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation rolling, created the Joe's Clubs, things like that. When he retired from that, which he also retired from the Navy before that, Joe can't stay retired. He's 89, going on 90, and working hard to make sure that things are better for seniors in our county every single day. In fact, I was trading emails with him before I got to the radio station. He's writing another article about how important it is to get behind nonprofits because of all the work that we do here in Brevard County. So we can't do this without your help. And I'll do a little pitch about our car raffle fundraiser and how you can help us a little bit later in the show. But I wanted to say that Joe has always been a big proponent of two things. We've operated the county's senior information helpline now for all those years, and it's a free call at 321-473-7770. I'll say the number again so you get a moment to grab a pencil and jot it down. But that call is a free call, and you'll end up speaking with Nancy Deerdorf, or Karen Wernland for that matter, because the phones are that busy these days. But they're there to serve you. That number again, 321-473-7770. And people call us all the time with challenges of everything: housing, legal, medical, financial, transportation, you name it, we've probably taken a call on it. But the other aspect of what we really try to do as Helping Seniors of Brevard is get information into the hands of seniors and those who love and care for them, because as anybody would certainly understand, aging, getting older, is on-the-job training. There's no real way. You just have to move through it and do the best you can. But one of the things Joe has always talked about, with all of his experience, his last command in the Navy was the Navy's retirement home in Gulfport, Mississippi. So he's got a lot of experience in all this kind of stuff. And he says, Kerry, everybody needs to make an aging plan. So here in Florida, we get aging plan. Well, we get a hurricane plan. We maybe don't understand aging plan, but it's the same idea. It doesn't mean you want to have a problem. It just means you want to have an idea of what you would do if you're facing what might be a likely challenge. So with that, the other half of what we do with Helping Seniors is try to get folks educated. And today we focus our show on something that a lot of people don't even realize is available, that you can get good help at home. And so I'm going to introduce a couple of really great friends of the Helping Seniors organization. One, she's a registered nurse. She's been part of the organization for many, many years. She runs really one of the finest, I think, home health agencies called Avid Home Care, and they're in Merritt Island, and it's typically the area that they focus in on there and close to there. But she has a lot of insight because through her tremendous career, she's an author. She has done a lot of work with us, helped us with things like senior mental health. She talks a lot about the topic of dementia. You can see Traci Graf on some of the TV shows and things that we broadcast 4 times a day on Space Coast Government TV, and they're also available at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. How are you today, Traci?
I'm great. Thanks, Kerry. I'm glad to be here.
And thanks for being here. And she also serves a very, very valuable volunteer post in what we're doing with Helping Seniors. And we're going to talk about that too. And that's challenging this housing crisis that seniors are facing. We'll get into that a little bit in the second half of the show. But thank you for being here today, Traci.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And our other guest is another great friend of seniors in this area. She's actually part of everything that's going on over at the Senior Resource Center of Brevard, which is that vision that's really coming to pass now that Joe has had since the day that Helping Seniors started. And that was to have a place where a lot of great resources can come together and make a difference for literally the 25% over 65 in Brevard County who are over the age of 65. So I'm talking about I want to make sure I get your title right. I call you like office manager, assistant. You are certainly the social media expert in our bunch, but you work with Jital Patel and Coastal Occupational Therapy. You actually have you've worked with Aging Matters. You helped Kara Anderson with Simplifying Senior Living. You're no stranger to this. I'm talking about Susan Houts. How are you, Susan?
Thank you, Kerry. I'm super excited to be here. It's wonderful to be here for such a great cause and such a great group.
And I was telling Traci as we were getting ready for the show, I said one of the cool things is that both of your organizations, you specialize in helping seniors where they are. In other words, seniors don't have to try to figure out how to organize transportation, bug their kids, bug their grandkids, or however it works, and say, "Oh, I got to be at the doctor at 2:00. I got to be there for my occupational therapy appointment at 4:00." I mean, you guys specialize in going to where the seniors are. That is such a big, big benefit, and it's something that we need to talk about because most of us, and I'm thinking about my own experience as an adult child trying to help our mamas, my mom and my wife's mom, and it was like, okay, I got a doctor's appointment, I have to see the specialist at 10:00, and now you end up rearranging your day so you can make all that happen, and then there's a problem, and then it has to get rescheduled and all these things. And you guys make all of that so simple. Traci, talk about how getting good help at home can make such a difference in the quality of life for seniors.
Well, I mean, I'll take that example that you just gave, and I don't want to, a lot of the transportation companies out there are fine, but they are really only for people who can get independently to and from their door to the vehicle.
Oh.
And then some of them work on schedules where they'll drop you off when you need to be dropped off, but you'll have to wait sort of for them to round back around to get you.
Right.
Which sometimes can literally be hours.
Yeah.
I personally feel that we customize everything to every client that we have. I just met somebody the other day who only needs transportation. Mm-hmm. She lives with her daughter. And she needs transportation to the doctor, to the nail salon, to go shopping. And, I met with her and talked to her about how our agency works. And she doesn't need to get anything else from us. Mm-hmm. She can pay for just that only. Mm-hmm. She can do it on an as-needed basis if she chooses to do it that way. We are definitely an agency that I feel personally as a nurse, like when I come into the situation, I'm able to partner with that person and become part of their healthcare team. Mm-hmm. And so now we're kind of in this together, and we're going to go with the flow. I don't believe in anybody paying for care that they don't need by enforcing hourly minimums. It's just a personal belief of mine. And, I have clients who are over 100.
Wow.
If I was enforcing hourly minimums, they would be, I don't know. You can't keep giving care to somebody for no money.
Yeah.
And I've only met a couple people who have endless amounts of money to pay for this kind of help.
Right.
So I just feel that early on in the interaction, it's important to respect that situation for them and create customized care plans or schedules or however you want to talk about them for each client individually. And I am the one that does that. And as busy as we've become, I'm still able to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like one of my very favorite parts of doing what I do is that client interaction and customizing the care and maybe even bringing in other services that they could use that they're not aware are available.
Yeah.
Very quick to partner with hospice, some very palliative care, skilled nursing, but they have their limitations. And sometimes, I'm actually happy to meet Susan because there are times where I may have a client who probably could use some help in the home with therapies and could make our job a little bit easier. I also sometimes like to, and I'll do this with skilled nursing home care, is I'll have my staff go when their skilled professionals go, and they'll repeat the home exercise program or the OT program my staff can then repeat that with the client every day. So, knowing that we could coordinate with clients is good to know.
Yeah, we're talking with Traci Graf, who's the owner of Avid Home Care Services right there in Merritt Island. And our other guest, Susan Houts with Coastal Occupational Therapy. See, I think that's one of the things that makes what you guys do so special is that you go to where the client is. They're not having to try to figure out how they get to a PT gym to make it work or things like that. You're actually available to make it work as works best for the person you're trying to help.
It really is one of the most exciting parts of the service that we provide. Number one, logically, when you think about someone who is in pain or who needs these services, the first thing you think of is they're probably not able or wanting to jump in a car and drive. So when you kind of think of it logically, it's like, why haven't we thought about this sooner? And then especially when it comes to these services like the home care, and then also especially occupational therapy, what I really love that we do, Judel and our team, is uses the environment that the person lives in.
Yep.
And so since we are talking about those ADLs and those IADLs, is they're in their environment that they're living in every day. So again, nothing to say there's, of course, every piece of healthcare is crucial, every inpatient, every outpatient, right? So like, we're not, of course, saying that anything is less valuable than any other, but the benefit of what we can provide is that we do go into that home. And so number one, Kerry, like you said, time is so valuable these days.
Yeah.
I just haven't been able to describe how fast I've seen everybody move.
Yeah.
And how fast we've continued to move out of necessity, right? But when you have people that need to take time out of their day, take time out of the workday, how that impacts everyone down the line at the workplace, missing days of work, being absent from your daily routine. It's just the challenges seem insurmountable, and then you do meet somebody like Traci, you do meet somebody like Judel, and you go, well, you know what? Why don't we take that? It seems like an insurmountable problem of how do I get these services in the door? It seems a little scary. How do I get someone in here to take care of my mom, to take care of my grandmother? But then you have it happen, and you talk to somebody who goes, well, we're going to treat them just like family, or we're going to come in and make sure they can walk through their home. They can navigate their home, and that their home is safe because our therapists are in their home. It's exciting stuff going on in the community, and this teamwork is another really exciting part when we do make friends in the community, and it is all about the patient care.
I agree.
Yeah, I love what you were saying because there was something you put in there that was so important. You were talking about the fact that you're able to see the person. Both of you are able to see the people in their home environment. And I always laugh, like, because I'm kind of a fan of watching these shows that you see on like the real estate TV channels, and somebody's, they're showing the model home and they're staging it so it's just right. But I always end up walking away with, that's beautiful, but obviously nobody lives in this house, right? Because all the stuff, where are they going to put all the papers? Where are they going to put all the other stuff that just comes with life, Yeah. And so when you are going to maybe a physical therapy kind of gym or something like that, I'm absolutely sure that's helpful. But it's probably still missing that ingredient, because if you're in somebody's home, you see something that's not safe,
right?
Or maybe how the person is maneuvering in the home, that's not safe. You guys are like you're like a ready help to say, let's fix this. Let's keep you safe here.
Yes, and for me, where I encounter a lot of clients who have issues moving, who have issues doing X, Y, or Z, and the limitations on skilled nursing home care have become ridiculous. Not to mention that, you'll get them involved sometimes, and unless I can talk directly to the physical therapist, which I will, they come in and just do their own agenda. They're doing standing exercises, they're doing sit to stand, they're doing this, they're doing that, and they tell me how they can do 20 reps of something standing at the counter, and I'm like, okay, can you stand up from that wheelchair and go to that chair? No.
Right.
Okay, so what have we been doing for 30, 60 days? So those kind of things. I also encounter many, many, many clients who they'll get a round of a Medicare episode, or even two, from skilled nursing home care, and guess what? Nobody has shown them how to get in and out of the car.
Right.
Even as a passenger. And I'm like, do you know how much that opens up the ability for these people to have some independence.
Right.
I mean, they still need us to take them somewhere, but at least we can get them in and out of the car.
Right.
You know, we can get them into a store. We can get them into a riding cart. There's so many options that become available, but I encounter a lot of people who they may be able to manipulate around their home okay, sort of safe, but a lot of them really have no idea how to get out of the house. Mm-hmm. And I find that extremely frustrating. And I will also say that because I don't do Medicare services anymore, I am really able to accomplish a great deal more than I ever did as a Medicare home care nurse. Most of the time, in the 10 years I did skilled nursing home care, the time you spent with the patient went down to almost nothing because you were so busy checking boxes and clicking this and documenting that for Medicare rules and regs in case one day they decide to come look at your charts. I mean, it's become absurd, and unfortunately, the person who suffers is the patient.
Yeah. So the exciting part, not all of that is scary, but the neat part that what Helping Seniors is doing and the Senior Resource Center and folks like you and all of us put together is having these conversations, whether it be on the radio or whether it be any of our networking events or in these, is that's a concern that maybe we haven't thought of, like the driving rehab that we can talk a little bit about later.
Absolutely.
And driving evaluations, things like that. We've been educating the community on another program that we have for that specific purpose, that need for independence of all people. And what does that look like? And so sometimes we do get our blinders on of like that sit to stand. If they can do that, they're good. But then we all have our blinders for a certain extent. And then once we talk to somebody from a different perspective in the healthcare industry, we're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And I just see those light bulbs pop every day when we get two people from different industries within the senior care industry together. It's so neat. And again,
creates a network because we
all
do have a
fantastic.
different perspective of it.
It's huge.
So it's very helpful, I think, when you can partner with people like your place and get really custom care brought into the home.
And to see how excited, what I love is to see how excited every individual gets when we make these connections, because for no other reason other than we know it's going to improve the care of our clients and patients. That's the really exciting part. That's the fun part of it.
And I think the fact that they understand that somebody actually cares.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You know, I think sometimes that's a real light bulb in their head. Like, wait a minute, is this chick for real? Is she serious? You know, and I'm like, I'm very serious. And I have seen my staff do some absolutely amazing things under my direction, because each client is different and they're not capable of making the decisions on what treatment, how often, how we're going to do it. And I mean, one great example I love is a client we had with terrible lymphedema for many years. She refused to go to rehab one time after going to the hospital like 5 times. And I wanted to come straight home. And I said, the only way you can do it is if you let us come 24/7, because I can't have you going right back to the hospital. It's my reputation to, I'm not going to have you go. And they'll be like, oh, Avid said they would take care of her, you know.
Right.
So I was able to, through networking, through some of the people I know, a lymphedema specialist nurse, we figured out a treatment program that my staff was able to do twice a day. Every 12 hours they did it to her legs. And her doctor has said that he has never, in the years he's known her, seen her ankles.
Oh.
But he can see them now.
Oh.
And she can get out of the house. She can walk. She can go to lunch, which isn't always good. But she can. And it makes her so much happier. And she was a typical lymphedema. That's a big area that we encounter. Is because there's no help. You either take them to the Space Coast Lymphedema Clinic or one of the lymphedema clinics.
We treat lymphedema.
Good. Well, we're going to talk about that.
You know,
I made incredible progress with that patient by literally working sort of the way I felt it needed to be done.
And well, like you said, and I don't remember if you said it when the mic was on or not, and Kerry said it as well, is we're all in this together. And it's such a strong vibe within our I feel, within our healthcare community, and especially senior care community. As Terry talked a little bit about, my background initially came from education, where you have that vibe, right? You have students that are supported by a support staff, and you kind of have an organization that's organizing support staff. Not the same thing happens necessarily with seniors outside of these wonderful facilities we have. So how do we do that? And it does seem like we have a rising tide of people that have that mindset of trying to come together for those purposes. It's really an exciting time to be in senior care, and we have such a lovely group of seniors here in Brevard to take care of.
I just really wanted to kind of chime in on this, because one of the things that you pointed out, and I think it's like kind of cuts to the heart of the matter, is most people, because we kind of said at the outset of the show, aging is on the job training. So we're not specialists. We're just going through life the best we can, whether we're the person ourselves or maybe it's our loved one that we're trying to help wherever we can. And I love to tell the story because it's an amusing story on myself, but it's so true. I remember the first time with my mom, and they said, she needs occupational therapy. And with a straight face, I told them, no, she doesn't. She's retired.
That's right. We get that a lot.
Because we don't know all these terms. Like I was going to say, earlier you talked about, I think you had the acronym, but it was like activities of daily living.
IADL.
So we hear like the medical community throw these, and they know what they're talking about, but we don't really understand. And I think the thing that happens when you get involved with a family, with the person in their home, there's much less opportunity for that kind of, I call it the NASA speak, everything's an acronym, but you're actually able to look the person in the eye and figure out what is going to help that person. Like you mentioned before, both of you were talking about how helpful it could be for somebody to get out and hit the road if that's safe. And I know one of the initiatives that Jeetal and you at Coastal Occupational Therapy are kind of like carving a name for yourself is you're kind of taking charge of this whole driving safe thing for seniors to, first of all, evaluate, make sure it's safe, but then even if they need some help, you guys are kind of experts in how all that works too.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Jeetal is a driving rehab professional, and so her focus is a program along with our occupational therapy services. It's called Drivability, Drive Safe Brevard. And so what that focus is to find people in the community, seniors all the way through to anyone else who either needs to be evaluated for their driving ability to make sure that they are safe for their sake and the sakes of everyone around them. And as Kerry said, either be able to have that conversation and open that conversation with them of maybe it's time to make other plans, or if they're right on the cusp and maybe it's just we need a little adaptive equipment, which we can, again, through our networking can help set up, or maybe they just need some rehabilitation and some extra training. So very exciting program.
Yes. Okay.
My staff could accompany them when they drive themselves if they're not quite confident enough to be safe.
Networking all around.
So they can do that. They can drive the patient's car. They can drive their car. They can, so it's
a lot of exciting stuff.
A lot of options.
We're going to keep this conversation going. Susan Houts with Coastal Occupational Therapy, Traci Graf with Avid Home Care Services, and we'll be right back with the second half of Helping Seniors Radio. See you in a few.
Good to hear that music as we come back for the second half of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get back to the show. The host and executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard is here to guide us through the second half hour, and that, by the way, is Kerry Fink.
Hey, John Harper, thank you. Welcome back to the second half of Helping Seniors Radio, right here on 90.3 FM WEJF, and welcome back if you're listening online at wejf.net. And thanks for continuing to listen if you're catching us as a podcast. We're having a great conversation with our guests in the studio today, none other than Traci Graf, registered nurse who is the owner of Avid Home Care Services in Merritt Island and really does a great job providing home care. And also Susan Houts with Coastal Occupational Therapy, who is right here in Melbourne, co-located with us in our brand new, getting ready to open up for a ribbon cutting actually next Wednesday afternoon at the beautiful Omni Healthcare Professional Tower, where we are having the opportunity and the luxury of establishing a great senior resource center right there in Suite 2C. And so we'll talk about all that. But we had such a great conversation about getting quality home help on many levels, because Traci's company specializes in getting home health aides and CNAs, which there I go. I'm using the acronym that I always rail against. What is CNA?
Certified Nursing Assistant.
Thank you. Okay, so that's what you specialize.
And they're licensed,
yes,
by the way.
Okay. Yes, and so that's what you do. But, Traci, in the first half of the show, we got so busy talking, we didn't even give a phone number or a website or anything if somebody wants to get in touch with you. How do we reach Avid Home Care Services?
321-392-3400.
Okay, Traci Graf, registered nurse. The cool thing is, you as a registered nurse, you are the one that goes out and meets with the family. And so even though you're talking about different things with home care, you're able to see it through a broader lens, which is really pretty interesting.
I mean, it fits right into Susan's business, is that I find a lot of benefit in going to their home.
Yes.
And I know my employees, so when I walk in, I not only know who we have in mind for scheduling, but I know which one is going to be a good fit for them.
Yeah.
And, I think there's a lot of little things that frustrate people with home care. People don't know how to get in the house. We told them 10 times to go to the back door. Why don't they go to the back door? Stuff like that. There's animals in the house, or there's some kind of family dynamic that it would benefit the staff to know. I put all that stuff in a summary for them. And my staff are really excellent about reading those summaries before they go, because it only takes one time to call me with a question that I know is in the summary. The answer is in the summary that you didn't read.
Yeah.
That interaction happens once, and then they get it, because I put that in there for them, and I tell them that I want them to be as prepared as they can be to go in and help these people. They don't want to have to direct them. The clients do not want to have to tell them what to do. They feel awkward sometimes if they do everything they're supposed to do and then they don't know what else to do, because now they're in the situation where they have to, again, tell them what to do. They don't want to do that. Some of them want to be in control and tell them how to do it, blah, blah, blah. But they understand that when I come, I'm building a list for the staff to basically work off of that gives them at least a generalized idea of what they need and want. But I do write this summary that talks about their past medical history, who their doctor is, who's present on the visit, like is there a son, is there a daughter, are there pets, anything I think they need to know to help better prepare them to go in the home. And then they work off an app. So the task list pops up in their phone once they clock into the visit. But they're prepared. And that was always one of my biggest pet peeves when I was on the skilled nursing side. And I saw these non-skilled agencies coming into my patients. Nobody knew what to do. Half of them didn't know the patient's name. And the patients would be like, forget this. This is costing me $100 for somebody to come give me a shower, and this is what I'm getting. So I kind of took all those little things together and all of my own little things that I like to do as a nurse. And basically, I don't want to have to call someone like an admissions nurse to say, hey, so-and-so can't get in the house. Is there a different door? Is there a code? I want that information at my fingertips, and the only way for me to have it that way is for me to do it.
Traci Graf with
that's
Avid.
why I do it.
Traci Graf with Avid Home Care. Your number one more time.
321-392-3400.
And Susan Houts, who works with Jital Patel with Coastal Occupational Therapy. And the cool thing, like we're talking about, is you guys go and meet folks where they are. And yet you're also doing, like, I think you've got one coming up. Is it later today? You're doing something at the Resource Center?
We are. Another big, to piggyback on what Traci was saying, a lot of it is education, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're educating your direct staff. A lot of it we find is patient education.
Absolutely.
So what the other benefit of going in the home is you have that time one-on-one with them. So when you do have the hour or whatever your appointment time is, you're with them the whole time.
Right.
And you're with that one client, right? Or that one patient. So you're not kind of splitting your attention. And then you're also able to educate them. So we do a lot of education, obviously in the community. and specifically to the patient. So yes, today at Senior Resource Center of Brevard, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard in Melbourne.
She's good.
Hey, I like it there. We're really enjoying the collaboration there. We are having a free posture check.
Okay.
So if you're listening to this and you're close to the Apollo building, starting at 3:00. We are going to be checking postures and giving you some tips. So, in fact, if we kind of look at ourselves right now, I'm looking at all of our postures, our lower shoulders. We all just kind of pulled our shoulders back a little bit. And we all straightened up a little bit here in the studio because we know that our posture matters. There's a lot of emotional and physical and mental connections to our postures, along with, of course, as we get older, we see a lot of people bent over. And we always think as we're younger, oh, we don't want to be bent over a walker or a wheelchair or a cane or just kind of walking.
Right.
And so we need to start those patterns when we're young.
That's good.
And so no matter what age you are, come by and see us today. But every month, and you'll see us in Senior Scene on the Helping Seniors website and on our social medias, Coastal Occupational Therapy. We try to do 1 or 2 events a month for that reason, to connect directly with clients who need those occupational therapy services, but also caregivers. And again, all ages, no matter what we're doing at this point. Again, aging is our goal, right? If we stop aging, something has gone wrong. So we want to kind of establish those patterns well. And I really like, Kerry, if you don't mind me calling back to something you said when it comes to occupational therapy, because I started with Judel just a couple of months ago, but we had worked together at Aging Matters in Brevard. We did a video during the pandemic for 3 quick tips on stroke recovery. But when you think occupational therapy, the first thing we think of is you're going to come in and give me therapy for my job, And a lot of seniors, but people of all ages think, well, I'm not working anymore. I don't need occupational therapy. So that's a lot of our education is what an occupational therapist is. But as Judah likes to say, it's the activities you do from the day the moment you get up, the moment you go to bed.
Anything you do with your hands.
Anything you do with your hands, and then also, the IADLs, the driving is another aspect, and getting it out of the car and transportation. So there's so much that has to do with what we're doing in this community in Brevard. And again, the resources that we have here, I don't think every community has a Helping Seniors radio show, and the network that we have in the Senior Resource Center and the amount of amazing resources that we have. It's encouraging. Because when we talk about the housing and all that kind of, and we look at the numbers of Brevard County and these kind of challenges are ahead of us, it can seem like so much. But then we sit together and we talk about, one client at a time and one patient at a time. And we know that's what we're here for. So it's discouraging and encouraging all at the same time. And the only way to keep it going is, again, to stay in it all together and to help each other.
Absolutely. And Susan, if somebody is interested maybe in the program this afternoon, but you also do these on an ongoing basis, but maybe they have just heard us talking about, wow, that would be really a neat idea to get some help in the home on the occupational therapy side. How do people get in touch with you? What's the way that they reach you guys?
Fantastic. So you can find us on our social medias. We are on Facebook at Coastal Occupational Therapy, and we are on Instagram at Drive Ability, because we do have that driving program. Or you can give us a call at any time, 321-361-8040. Or you can find us online at coastaltherapyfl.com. So I'll give you that phone number one more time. You'll be speaking to me if you give us a call. So call me anytime, 321-361-8040, Coastal Occupational Therapy.
Yeah, no, this is good, because one of the things that I want us to really talk about for a minute here too is the fact that another one of our partners in the Senior Resource Center is a company called Practitioners in Motion. And, this is a whole area I didn't even really know existed. And we're talking about Tammy Lieberg and her company. She's I think if I say this right, called an say all you guys.
APRN.
APRN.
Here we advanced practice registered nurse.
Yeah, here we go again with the NASA acronyms, right?
Education. It's all about the education.
The medical field loves to confuse people.
But what it means as a practical person, because this much I do know.
She's a nurse and a doctor kind of in one.
She can be your primary doctor.
That's
and
right.
The really cool thing about her company is, just like Traci, what you do with Avid Home Care when you bring help to somebody at home, and the same thing that Susan, you, Gital, Brianna, everybody connected with Coastal, you guys are bringing care into the home and making that you lift such a burden off of the other people who are trying to help caregive for that senior. And not only that, like we talked about, for all the reasons, they're getting a lot better help. And we had this conversation with Tammy about what she does as a primary care person, because we were talking about everything. Like, I remember stories of trying to take my mom over to the hospital because she had to do a pee-pee test. And then because it's first thing in the morning, can't make the water. And so now we have to go trudging back home with a little device, and she's got to try to collect this. And then somebody's got to take it back up to the hospital later. So you're running all this time, right? So all this time. And then not only that, when you go to the doctor, and let's say you have the best doctor in the world and they really love and care what they're doing, you go to the office, you sit there for 45 minutes. They call your name, you go back there, you explain what prescriptions are to the person that's helping. And if you're lucky, you get about 8 minutes with the doctor, of which about 4, they're busy typing stuff into the computer because they have to note the case before they get to the next case. So you're maybe getting like 5 minutes with the doctor. And so I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but I said this to Tammy. I said, I remember hearing like one of the moms complaining the whole week leading up to the doctor's appointment. And then on doctor day, take a shower. Fine. You go into the doctor, how's everything? Oh, just fine.
Great.
And so when you get
problem, it's a real problem.
So when you're coming to somebody's home, I think it lifts a layer of that, because now you have a real relationship with the person. And yes, we always want to put our best foot forward. I get that. But the real point is, if you're the person being seen, you want to get the help that really matters and not put on a show, you know?
It's really an exciting concept. And what I really like is they kind of call back to the very beginning of medicine when the doctor came to your house, right? And so it's very, not to take anything away from our current healthcare system and the way it's set up, but it's an exciting opportunity. And again, with what we're doing, home healthcare, I was talking to somebody about it earlier. A lot of people, it goes back to that education. A lot of people don't know it's there, or think it's out of their reach.
Right.
But when you start talking and really talking to them and breaking down those details, it really becomes a possibility. And then once it becomes a possibility, and then it becomes a reality, and then you start seeing that relief. Tracy, I'm sure you see that a lot, the relief of the family, right?
Definitely.
Of just once they get the help in the door.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, and that's why we usually only lose clients to passing away. I mean, they're very connected to us.
And they do. They get very connected.
I want them to trust me, and I want them to trust my staff, and I want them to trust that I have their best interest at heart without any obligations or any expectations. I say to all of them all the time, I'll never steer you wrong. And they know it. But it's interesting what you said. I mean, I really watch this kind of trend, and I think to myself, it's interesting that we're all starting now in medical care, just in the medical field, to find more ways to treat people outside of the hospital setting, outside of the doctor's office setting. Why? Because sometimes it's more effective.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, really, you cut out all the nonsense and you cut out the interaction with somebody at the reception's desk who has maybe a little more control than she should. You cut out all this other stuff, and you can really get to the bottom of some of the problems, and then find really solutions instead of just writing a script and sending them out into the world with it, or writing this and sending or ordering a test that you're not going to see the results of or talk to her about for 3 months. It just doesn't. We've become so, and I say we because I'm part of the medical field, but it has become so complicated to navigate, ineffective, time wasting. It's really been sad, because I've had a career. I've been in the OR, I've been in psych, I've been in transplant, and I came to home care, and I was shocked really at the impracticality of home care services of all kinds. They just weren't realistic. They weren't helpful. They were expensive. From my outside observation, from coming from the world of critical care, none of it made sense. So I love that I am now in the position to make it make sense for that client to get something done, to get the right treatment, I mean, I say when I take them on, I will be their advocate. If I have to call, like Kerry said, the people who go in the doctor and say everything's great, I know who those clients are. And I have been known to call their doctor ahead of time and say, heads up, so-and-so is coming.
Well, and that's
She's going to tell you she's great, but
Right.
there's these problems, and I really need you to make sure you bring those up to her.
And we were talking a little bit about the marketing and reaching. So we say marketing, but really what we mean is education in our
Yes,
field,
I
right?
agree.
And
Right.
so those two, as a marketing person, those two things.
Right.
But we're trying to educate, and there's different target audiences. So it's really about also educating the son. And I really am starting to see, because of the generational changes, that son and daughter to say, you want a set of eyeballs on your mom. You know,
Yes.
you want that care and
Correct.
and that home health and services like Coastal and other and Practitioners in Motion, these ones that go in the home. Again, when you find a group that's trustworthy, that's involved in the community, that's involved in a community like Helping Seniors of Brevard, that's networked in, there's a reason why we do these things, because there's that layer of trust and background that you have, because it is a huge responsibility to go into someone's home and take care of them.
gosh.
Huge.
Yes.
And there's a lot of liability that goes along with that. There's a lot of personal responsibility. There's a lot of emotional load that comes on with that. When you do lose a client or a
Right.
patient, you know, there's a
Right.
different.
My staff are deeply
Oh my
affected
gosh,
when
there's
they
a
lose
different
clients.
impact from when you're in the home than when you see them in a doctor's office. So,
Yes.
it's going to be interesting to see the cultural shift during this generational change as to if this is something that we kind of head back into because of as I said before, the logical benefits of it versus everything else. But it's exciting to be in this community that's starting to head in that direction. It's neat. It's very cool.
Susan Houts with Coastal Occupational Therapy, helping folks at home. One more time, how do people get in touch if they want to find out about, for example, the seminars and the workshops you guys do, or just get information? Yes,
please come find us. We are all over social media. So if you are on Facebook, we're Coastal Occupational Therapy. If you're on Instagram, we're at drive_ability, because that really focuses on our driver ability program. And then also, please give us a call, 321-361-8040. And we're also online if you want to Google coastaltherapyfl.com.
And how about you, Traci Graf, registered nurse, Avid Home Care Services? If somebody's been hearing about this, say, no, I really would like to get some good help at home, how do they reach you?
321-392-3400. And we have a website too. That's just www.avidhomecareservices.com. If you find one that looks like a chain, it's not me.
Yeah, well,
because we're not a chain.
What I love about both of you guys, same with Tammy Lieberg's Practitioners in Motion, and really the partners who are connected with us in the Senior Resource Center, is everybody is 100% Brevard County. And, you know, so because I always joke about this. You'll see a commercial, you call 1-800-something, and you're talking to a call center in Omaha, and they're going to tell you, oh yeah, there's a doctor right down the street in Satellite Beach, and you live in, I don't know, Mims, the north end of the county or something, because it just looks that far on a map, right? So I wanted to save out a minute here at the as we get toward the close of the show, because I wanted to talk about the housing challenge in Brevard County is really an issue for seniors. And so I just want to offer, make sure that you're aware of a seminar that's coming up. This is specifically through the Palm Bay CDBG grant program, but it is designed for senior renters in Palm Bay. So if you live in Palm Bay, listen up. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. to 12 noon, we're doing a Senior Renters of Palm Bay workshop. Now, we did this last month, and it was tremendously well received. Frank Scaglione, who's an attorney, he comes in and speaks about a project that the Florida Bar has going on called the Florida Eviction Prevention Project. And I got to tell you, I had no idea how complicated the eviction process actually is, because most people call, for example, they call Nancy on the Senior Information Helpline and say, I just got a 3-day notice, and they think I got to be out.
Not legal.
I got to be out. I got to be out in 3 days, and that's only where it begins. So knowing your rights as a renter is so important. And this workshop is absolutely free. At this moment, it's just available for those people who are residents of Palm Bay, because it is using Palm Bay CDBG funds. But if you're interested in the details, call Nancy at 321-473-7770. And again, it's just one way to kind of keep up with that. Now, I got just a moment left to talk about our fundraiser, which I said I would do at the beginning of the show. So here's a date that you want to be sure is on your calendar. It's Saturday, October the 7th. You have a date, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the American Muscle Car Museum, and you could possibly have a date with your brand new car, which is even better because of the 3,000 people or so who show up that evening. And the answer is, let me make this statement up front, you do not have to be present to win. If you got your ticket, something comes up, you're out of town, you're covered. When they pull your winning ticket, you're still the winner. Doesn't matter if you're vacationing in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's okay. So, but if you're there, it's a wonderful party because Mark Pylock, the owner of the American Muscle Car Museum, 435 cars now, has opened up that museum every year since he's been open and allowed us very kindly to come in and have our grand drawing there. And he is a tremendous host because he actually springs for the beer, wine, soda, snacks, pizza. He had pizza, he had sandwiches, he had cookies. It was just a great night last year. Always is. He's a tremendous host, and we're so grateful for his help. But that's all included when you get your ticket. One ticket for $25, $5 for a $100 donation. You are doing three things. You're helping the work of helping seniors. You are going to have a great night at the museum, and you could win a brand new car. And I'm going to ask our folks in the studio. So here's the choices, and I'm going to ask which one you choose if you could win. So you could take this, and they say this could be the last year. We've been doing this thing called Dodge versus Chevy Challenge because some folks on our team, Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors and some others, are all about the Dodge. I say, that's the only car in this race. That's the one you got to go for because you could win a new Dodge Challenger. Ashley Caswell, who's one of our board members with Raleigh IT, years ago, she said, no, forget the Dodge. That's junk. You got to drive a Camaro. So they've had this challenge now for a bunch of years. And they're saying this could be the last year for both the Dodge and the Camaro. But you could pick a new Dodge Challenger or a new Chevy Camaro. Or if you're like Vicki Moore, who is, she's an independent agent, drives a Mazda and says, I'm all about the Mazda. So Mazda Miata Convertible is another option, as is the stylish and practical Kia Sportage or Mitsubishi Outlander, because these are all cars in the AJ Hires automotive group. So that's why you get to pick which car you want to win. So, Traci Graf, if you could win of those options, what sounds good to you?
Is the Outlander new? I've
The
never
Outlander's
seen that
brand-
in the
yeah,
car
it's,
thing.
it's a cool, yes.
I mean, I've never seen that car.
Yeah.
It was always just the one. So I stick with the SUV.
Okay.
Since I started driving an SUV, I'm not climbing in and out of a low car.
I hear you. So the answer is the Mitsubishi is a new choice this year because AJ Hires just opened up that Mitsubishi dealership right there on US 1, right around the corner actually from his Mazda store. So you got plenty of choices for good cars at AJ's dealership. So there we go. So you would maybe look at the Mitsubishi Outlander or Kia Sportage. Now, 2 years ago, our winner who was local, David Odahowski, that's what he wanted. He wanted the Kia Sportage. Susan Houts, what would you take?
I think I would have to take the Mazda.
Aha.
Vicki and I would have to thumb wrestle over because she loves that one. And so I drove that one when she and I did the car show together. I drove that one out there, and it is a fun little car. So that little convertible, I think, would be the one I would take.
That's a great car. Get your tickets today. HelpingSeniorsCarRaffle.com or call us 321-473-770. And we're out of time, so we'll see you next week for Helping Seniors Radio. Have a great week from here to there.